What is up, YouTube? It's Raycon. So today I got an interesting subject I've been thinking about maybe for a month or two, and this is would a remastered MMORPG actually work today? We've seen a lot of remastered games like Diablo 2, Skyrim, and hundreds of others. We've seen classic MMORPGs like classic WoW. We had an Aeon Classic recently. We've had like legendary servers on Lord of the Rings Online. But would an actual remastered MMO work today? And I'm talking about probably MMOs that are probably pre-2010, MMOs that are completely dead or kind of on life support that don't really have much of a population anymore, even though the servers are still up. But I've been back playing Age of Conan for the past month or something, and it just had me thinking about this, had me really thinking about this. So let's get in this, guys. I got several bullet points I want to go over. I'm probably going to ramble on about some things as well. And so kind of stay with me. I can make this video 2 hours long, but I'm not going to do that. It's going to be much shorter. Probably like 15 minutes, I'm hoping. And kind of hit these points and move on. So let's go ahead and jump right into this, guys. So what do we need to do to make a remastered MMO work today? The first very obvious one, guys, we all know is going to be graphics. Got to update the graphics, make it look more 2021, at least closer to 2021, the best you can. And it's not only just the textures, but things like pop-ins, you know, where you're going through a zone and mountains and trees will pop in, textures will pop in, get it so those things don't pop in. I think that's the most obvious. Some older MMOs hold up better than others. Right here in the background, I got Age of Conan playing, actually from the last few days. And this actually has held up very well. Now I'm running a reshade, so it does make it look a little better. I'm not the best with reshades, but some simple reshade tricks bring this game up and it actually looks pretty good. But some of the older MMOs, of course, look very, very dated and too dated to even play for probably most gamers. Let's move on to the next one, guys. Number 2, combat animations. I'm not talking about combat right here. I'm talking about the animations. A lot of older MMOs, the animations are just not up to standards today. So I think we'd have to change them. I played a little Lord of the Rings Online, Warhammer Online, and things like that in these older MMOs. And those games, the animations are just not up to par. I think Age of Conan would not have to change their animations at all. I think they hold up very well for MMO. But I think some of these older ones definitely improve the combat animations, make it just feel better. When the animations are good, I mean, it just is more fun. You know, one thing that stuck out to me back in the day for the next little topic on combat is that I never liked and never played a lot of Magic characters back in the day because of this reason is a lot of the when you play like a mage or a healer or whatever, you'd be stuck. You basically would you'd be stuck in place, kind of root yourself, CC yourself, and you couldn't move while you cast. Whereas older MMOs, you could have a lot more movement. You know, I think Black Desert, you got a lot more movement with casters, and ESO, you definitely do. I play a lot of ESO. You can move when you cast on all the abilities. I think giving casters more mobility when you move would be excellent. I'm not saying even add like teleporting or anything like that. I don't think that really goes with a lot of the older MMOs. But just don't make me stand in one place if I got to cast something. Let me walk. Let me better walk side to side when I'm casting abilities. And even some melee classes you were stuck to. So I think that would bring the combat more up to date as well. Also make sure the combat's not it's impactful. You know, some games you feel like you're hitting the air, you're not hitting the mob. I want to feel it. Like when I slam an axe into a mob, I want to feel it. I want to hear the impact of it. And some games today don't get it right. I mean, I played Crowfall, the MMO that released recently, the Kickstarter MMO, and it felt like air when I was hitting characters. It just did not feel impactful and kind of killed the combat for me. So I think making sure if the combat is impactful for older MMOs, bringing them up to standards, I think that's another thing that would help if you want to come back and bring back a remastered MMO. And then last thing I want to touch on with the combat alone, is tab target versus action. So would you need to change from action to tab target? Now this is kind of very old school versus new school. But if you look at the most popular MMO, Final Fantasy, it's not all this action combat like a Black Desert. So I don't think you necessarily have to move off the tab target. I think you could stay with it and it would be perfectly fine. Okay. As long as you improve the animations, allow casters more movements, I think it'll be good. Now, whether or not you add something like dodge, I think depends on the MMO. Some MMOs dodging would be great. Some older MMOs, some of them, it does not fit the combat. So I think that is going to depend on the combats, the fights, the boss fights. I love dodging in games, so I would love to see it. But it really depends on the game and the game alone. Another thing to bring it up to date, I think, is a lot of older games in general have more load screens. And if you could get rid of a lot of loading screens to make the world feel more open, we have better hardware nowadays. So I think that put a lot of limitations where some older games had a lot of load screens, and now I think we could probably get rid of a lot of them, except for maybe like raids and stuff like that, of course. Those are going to be instances and could be a load screen, but try to minimize those that were more prevalent in older games. So I got 4 or 5 more things I want to talk about, guys. I think these are big ones, guys. Kind of quality of life things, but I'm going to touch on one big one. I'm not going to go through everything. The video will be 2 hours long. So I'm going to touch on one of the big ones. Do you go back how it used to be with no group and raid finder, no dungeon finder? And there's bonuses, positives and negatives on this. Positive, it is easy just to hit a button, jump in, port in, go to a dungeon. I do think it harms the social aspect of MMOs. And what I mean by that, I've played, MMOs before all this was implemented and after. And the biggest difference I see is when you, and this is almost just in every aspect of life, but when there's no dungeon in raid finder and things like that, and you're trying to do a dungeon, and you got to go to global chat, and I know that can be annoying to some people, and I understand, but you have to initiate a conversation. And once you get the initiation of the conversation, it's much easier to continue that conversation, to talk to them again in the dungeon, and keep the conversation going. Whether it be like, hey, do you want me to bring a healer or a tank? I got both. Or, hey, I'm in the city. Does anybody need any potions or anything or food? I can grab some and I'll bring it for the group. And you build friends easier that way. Excuse me. So you build friends much easier that way because the initial conversation started. Whereas a lot of games now, you just hop in a dungeon finder and you basically never talk to somebody, never initiate a conversation. And I think because you never have that initiative contact back and forth, nobody ever talks. I've noticed that. So I used to have way more friends meet people in MMOs back in the day than I would in previous MMOs. I like the older way, but I understand both sides. It's really preference on that. Now let's jump in. I think one of the biggest things that's hurt the experience of MMOs, and that's monetization. So when you look back at the older MMOs, they were box price plus sub. Nowadays, a lot of times it's still box price, whatever, but it's really, eventually it's going to move very quickly to free to play cash shop. So which ways would a remastered MMO need to go? I'm a big believer, and I'll explain why and things you could do to make this work in today's gaming kind of world, so to speak. But I'm a big, just make the game no box price, of course, and do a sub fee. And then take all these great items that used to be in cash shops and put them in the game. And because I think one thing that hurts, to me, can't stand it, when so much of the cool gear is bought on cash shops instead of acquired by playing the game. You used to start out with like rags, level up, and you get cooler gear as you level, and then you get cooler gear when you get dungeons, cooler gear when you get raids. And it was pretty awesome to get this vanity cosmetic gear progression. That's lost in MMOs right now. Because now you just go on, you can be level 10 and you can go spend 20, 30 bucks and buy the coolest looking gear in the game. And you never look different ever again. There's no gear, there's no cosmetic gear progression. You get stat progression still, but not cosmetic gear progression. Not also mounts. A lot of the cool mounts are on the cash shop. Find a way to put them in games. So how would I do it to put them in the games with the remastered? So we can kind of accommodate people that love the big vanity items, like to look cool in the game, and kind of the old school. I think this would be a good fix. A lot of the vanity items, you just add tokens. You have a token system. You acquire tokens by doing different events. It could be, you know, the Halloween events, the Christmas events. It could be killing raid bosses. It could be from random chest openings throughout the world. It could be dungeon bosses. All different ways you could implement it. Faction grinding, whatever. Just implement different ways for different playstyles. And you take these tokens and there'll be a vanity vendor and you can go buy cool vanity items. But you shouldn't better buy these vanity items at level 5 and look like, you know, you've been raiding for 3 years. You know, make it something you got to work for a little bit. And in different playstyles, add these tokens to different playstyles for people as well. You know, maybe if you're a master craftsman, you get an X amount of tokens for being a master craftsman. You know, crafters get a bonus and they can buy cool items. So there's different ways you can implement this in the game. And it'll allow you to have the sub fee without the cash shop and have a lot of cool items. Because they have, most of these companies that went free to play, which most of them did, there's so many awesome items that were on cash shops they could put in the game. Like this, and this would not be that demanding just to put on a vendor and add tokens to different events and things, boss kills, treasure chests, and things like that. I think it would make it a simple way to do it for remastered. So that's how I personally would do it. You may have a different way. But last thing I want to talk about before I go is content. Would they need content pace? And do they need to add content? So it's content pace is like how fast do you unload the content, the expansions, the DLCs? Do you do it all at once? Or would you do it, let's say 4 years worth of content in a year, like really fast? I think you keep it kind of the pace it was at launch. Maybe you could do it 10% faster, but I don't want to see 4 or 5 years worth of content released in a year. I don't want to see it released every 2 months, the new DLC, the new expansion. Kind of go the pace that you at launch or pretty close to it. Maybe you can speed up slightly. I think would be okay, but just don't go crazy speeding up. Also, keep the XP experience the same. Keep it how it was at launch. Don't go giving everybody 30% extra XP. Don't give XP boost. Let's level up like it was at launch. Kind of a classic way with some upgraded graphics and combat, animations. Just upgraded a lot of technical stuff. But keep the level and speed kind of closer to the original game. I think it'll be good. And guys, you know, those are kind of some of the main things I want to talk about. There's plenty more I want to put in this video. I did not want to make this video, you know, an hour long, honestly. So I wanted to keep it around 15 minutes. I think this hit some good points. There's many other things. You can comment below and let me know ideas you have, things that need to be changed, upgraded. Again, I probably had a list over 20 things, and I'll put around 10 down I wanted to kind of touch on, you know, and see what your thoughts are. Would you play a remastered MMO? Let me know below, guys. I think it's a very interesting idea because really there's not a ton that's coming out in the next few years. I mean, Ashes Creations is still a little ways out. I mean, we've got Lost Ark coming to the West, New World launch, but that's probably didn't quite live up the hype for most people. But I know people that love the game, so it's really personal preference, like all games. But as of today, moving forward, there's not a lot coming out in the next few years in MMOs. So tell me your thoughts on this, guys. If you enjoyed this, please hit like and subscribe below. I do stream on Twitch. I'll also put my Twitch link below. So come hang out on Twitch, guys. You guys have a good rest of the day, and I'll see you next time.